I was gonna go out wide.
Man.
I am good.
Got a car coming our way.
All right, crew. Why are we dusting mud off of Mr. Hosey's brakes? We'll get to that. But first, goal for the ride, G-Pack Hammerfest. We love it. Every town's got one, or most every town. 4/26, 2022. The goal tonight. Actually, Hart Robinson was just falling back saying, hey, what are you doing tonight? My goal, burn matches. So here we are going up Monterey towards Reed Hooker. Nice little climb there. You can see the power was spiking. But my goal tonight was to try to see how many accelerations I could do. And my goal wasn't necessarily to keep driving it afterwards. My goal was to burn matches, fatigue the legs, and then hopefully, have people chasing, following. So the question, post it in the comments, how many matches will I burn? So here's match number 1. And I wasn't sure. He was coming over to the left. I think that was Nick. There's a few guys that were off the front, but they were coming back. And so here's match number 1. My goal was to fatigue the legs. In races, you end up having these hard accelerations where you're, especially in the Pro 1-2 races, the start of especially road races is attack, counterattack, counterattack, counterattack. So you got to get used to doing those hard accelerations and getting the legs used to putting out some of that peak power. And then still having to hold some decent wattage afterwards. So my goal was to not allow myself to have too much recovery in between those, and basically to try to do a little more of a race simulation style thing here. So there we are. We're rolling through Collierville, Arlington. This is the hill that always kind of feels sort of junky. And I'm waiting for the next match to burn. So I'm at match number 2 matches in. Here comes match number 3. Boomer starts to up the pace, and I decide to give it a little gusto on this climb. And again, these eventually start wearing on you. So peak power, if you're watching power at all, starts out pretty good. To note, or something of note, I guess, wind is coming left to right now. So if you look at the map in the bottom right, wind is coming left to right on me. So it's coming from the north. And so we're hitting that crosswind right now. So I peel over to the left. Boomer has come with me. Great job, Boomer. And he goes straight to taking pulls. So, he came through right away. And I said, all right, well, let's keep working. The group was chasing behind. I know you've requested the rear camera. We got one. We got an extra one. But if you look at the shadows, I've got a big old bag full of flat repair kits and other stuff on that saddlebag. So I didn't have time to figure out what I was going to do with that while attaching a rear view camera. But he and I stayed on it here. Here's 2 hills kind of back to back. You can hopefully see the gradient change here in a second if that's actually working right. So I decided on these. I was going to try to let's burn another couple matches. So pushing wattage up to over 8, just trying to get those hard spikes in the legs. And you can see over the course of this, heart rate slowly starts drifting up. Very little recovery there, and trying to do another surge up this climb as well. Just trying to, simulate the demands of racing. Now, this is something that, if you're on a super fast group ride, there's a good chance that, if you're riding with folks that are super fit, super fast, maybe you're newer to riding, there's a good chance you're going to be burning these matches just sitting in. And something else to note, if you're sitting at the back of a big group, we did a group ride on last Saturday, the Charles Finney ride. I got a video that I need to post on that. But the surges, the yo-yos, the stuff that happens in the back can actually be pretty similar. So it's one of those things where mentally you're thinking, oh my gosh, how are people going so fast up front? But really, you're working just as hard or harder in the back, and you just don't realize it. So you're getting those accelerations. Now, ideally, the goal is, if you're in a race situation, you want to minimize those big surges, right? Each one of those, we call it a match. So, let's dive into that. Here I'm going match 6 through 8 because this was a hard dig. You can watch heart rate went from 158, and it's just going to keep driving up. Right now, Aaron from our team he's coming across. The whole group is also chasing pretty hard. And Newberry's coming as well. He's going to come up the inside here in a second. But what is a match? So your body, and it's going to depend on the person. The more fit you get, the more of these surges you end up doing, the bigger your matchbook is going to be. And, for me, anything that's over 700, 800, 900, even if it's shorter, those are little tiny matches you're burning. If you're getting up over 1,000 watts, for me, that's definitely a match being burned. Now, if you're above threshold, if you're working in that zone 5, zone 6, you're doing stuff that you can't sustain for long periods of time, that is also burning a match. So it could be lower power than a sprint, but if you're holding it for a longer duration, that's essentially burning a match. So that's why the number of matches that occurred there, even though it wasn't super high spike, I stayed on the power for a pretty decent amount of time and, chalk it all up as matches. So Newberry does a great job here. That's Newberry on my team, being followed by Mr. Hart Robinson. If you need a boat, Memphis Boat Center, that is his company. Give him a shout. Great move here. So I like this move. I'm sitting back. We got Newberry. We got Hart Robinson. 901 there in the black and gold and white. They miss it. So they're chasing. And I'm kind of liking my position here. Right? So things are kind of splitting up, but you can see Boomer, he's still happy to chase. We got 901 kind of in between. There, a carrot for Boomer. Aaron Tabergen, fresh off the Cat 3 victory at Crosswinds. That's the big diesel on the front right there. I knew he was going to pin things back together. You can see Newberry on the left there for a second. He was sitting up. Heart rate's still not that crazy. And so right here, I'm just trying to, you see 0 power, but I'm just kind of floating through here. And I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna allow any recovery. And you can see Nick Hagedorn is actually going off the front from 901. He stayed on the gas, which was a great move from him. And so I decided to go as well. And here I just had some speed, so I just stuck with it. Tailwind section. So if you look at the map again on the right side there, bottom right, tailwind section, I always like, I like crosswinds. Everyone likes tailwinds, right? The beauty of a tailwind is that the amount of draft someone behind you is getting is much less. All right, we slow it down right here. And all right, so right here, that corner had some mud in it, and there was some brake checking that happened behind, people trying to slow it for the corner. Unfortunately, Mr. Hosey, Derek, he slid out a little bit on his on the back wheel and ended up sending it into the bushes. Fortunately, he was okay, but a scary moment for sure.
Got a par 4. Derek drove it off into the rough. It's gonna be tough to say par on this one.
All right, so that audio may have been a little choppy, but whatever. I'm doing my best here, folks. I'm doing my best. At this point in time, Pete Sully with 901, the black, white, and gold team, he is off the front. So he kind of rolled a little bit. You can see him up there in the distance. Newberry decides to get on the gas. You can see heart rate's pretty well recovered. Little splits are happening. Big Aaron Tabergen, he's up in the pace there. You got Luke Hooper, I believe, on his wheel. So now we're heading back west, and again, that wind essentially is now hitting us from right to left. So you can see myself, I was tucking over on the left side of Newberry, and at this point in time, I'm like taking a peek back and seeing what's happening behind, seeing what's going on, and things were a little bit strung out. So what did I do? I peeled over, and I decided to just let a little gap open. I was happy with that composition. Aaron and Scott, both two big engines from our team. And so I just opened a little gap, and then Dylan here, he decided to go to the front to kind of pin it all, or attempt to pin it all back together. You can see I was getting a pretty decent draft here. But that's a way, like during a race, I've talked about it before, but if you're in a race, just sitting up can actually be the same as allowing your, is the same as an attack. But you're not the one attacking. You're doing no work, and your teammates are doing the same work they were doing before. And now you're forcing someone else to put in a surge. So here's match number 10. Boomer's hammering. He's out of the saddle. You can see him giving it the gusto here. I'm in the draft, which is nice. And my plan here is once this catch is made, I was going to go over the top of it. So we forced Dylan to work. We forced Boomer to work. And so now we're in a position where it's like, okay, our team has the advantage, so to speak. Pete Sully's getting caught up there at the front. So I decided to just, as things started easing off a little bit, as Boomer eased off a little bit, I decided to just keep the pressure on the pedals. And so you didn't see any of those big spikes like I had done before there, and it wasn't needed. So as people get tired, you can actually attack just by taking advantage of not easing up, not recovering when the group starts to recover. It's a great way to roll off the front, great way to get off the front, and you save your legs while you do it. So Newberry and I had a gap here. It all came back together at that stop sign. And so I'm just going fast motion here since nothing really happens in that little segment. And match number 12 is coming. So look at my power and look at the fact that they're riding away. So you know they're putting in a big effort. And that's also something mentally I'm thinking about. Like, how hard am I going? How hard are the people around me going? So I know that Aaron and Hart, who just attacked up front there, are going to be putting in a massive effort. They're burning matches also. You got Nick on the front now with 901. He's putting in a big effort. We got Boomer right behind him, and this is the spot, if you've watched those other videos, where I always like to try to get a little recovery in. So right here I'm looking back, and I decide, usually the group waits until right about here to attack. What I decided to do on this one was to go further out. So I tried to use a little bit of an element of surprise, and I wanted to make the total effort harder. So instead of us waiting until we were a third of the way up the climb, I decided to go from before the base of the climb and just lay it out there and see what happened and make everyone have to burn to some of their own matchbook here. So as you can see, I said this is the rest of the matchbook. I ended up getting a gap here. This is where a rear cam would have been good. Newberry, massive effort to come across to that. So 2 teammates now. We're off the front. We are going to exchange pulls. We're into that headwind right now. You can see we're heading north. Matchbook, it's on fire. It's burning up. I got nothing left. And this is a point where always make sure you're peeking back. See what the situation is. Are you going away from the people behind you? Is the chase getting closer to you? Do you need to up the effort? Can you let off the gas a little bit? How far from the finish are you? It's all stuff you need to be thinking about. So at about this point, I could see that Pete Sully with 901, as we rounded this corner, he had a gap on the field. They were coming back together. He'd have pretty much been solo since the hill, since that matchbook, the entire matchbook being burned. He'd been pretty much on his own. So at that point, I knew Newberry and I were trading pulls. He was solo. He was going to be wasting and using more energy than we were. And so advantage was to us. The group ended up catching him. I knew if we just stayed on the gas, that we were going to probably stay away in this situation. So here we are around in the corner. We're going into the final climb, the monorace sprint, where legends are made, where hearts are broken, or something like that. This is no Mir de Wee, if you watch the Mir de Wee. I kept waiting for Newberry to attack me here and to go across, and instead he said, let's just call that good. Derek, he ended up being okay. Right here, he's fixing his tire. It had actually come off the beat a little bit. Glad he was all right. Fun times, folks. If you haven't done GPAC yet, come on out. Doesn't matter if you get dropped. Come out, learn, get better, get stronger. You'll be happy you did. We want more folks in the sport. We want more folks racing. If you have questions, holler at us, and we'll keep posting these videos. And I will leave you with the morning peddler sprint. Hart Robinson, Luke Hooper going head-to-head. If you want to see a video on that, make sure you like and comment and subscribe and let us know, and we'll make it happen.